This week we read Parashot, Tazria, and Metzora, whereas last week's reading, Shmini, focused on what goes into our bodies. This week's reading focuses especially on what comes out of our bodies. Tazria means childbirth, but the parsha goes well beyond that and includes the array of profoundly powerful life and death, holy experiences. Metzora means leper, but not quite the same as modern leprosy, but means potentially contagious ailments, impurities coming from our bodies. These parashot, though, communicate that there are two rather different forms of ritual impurity of sorts. But both do require those having such experiences to re-purify thereafter. During such profoundly powerful, already special and holy times, new mothers, for instance, are not to touch any holy objects and not enter the sanctuary until going through a special repurification process. The ritual process includes a designated period of time, and it includes immersion in a mikvah, a holy bath, as well as includes giving something of actual value, an offering of gratitude for making it through such profound life experience. There is an impurity of sorts, a profound life power encountered from such holy life experiences as childbirth. It is different, though, for a mother giving birth to a girl versus a boy. After giving birth to a girl, the period of such tumah, ritual impurity, is doubled, as the new mother has here given birth to a child who will then hopefully be so blessed to be able to someday give birth to even another generation. On the other end of life, such tumah, profound power for impurity, can also be contracted by contact with a dead body. In the midst of life, that which comes out of our bodies, like menstrual blood, semen, flow from reproductive organs, and other bodily emissions that touch on the generations of life, also have such profound power for impurity. There is such profound power so naturally a part of the holy miracle of birth, the holy challenges of illness and recuperation, and the holy power of death. Tumah does not mean that the person afflicted has done anything wrong. There are two types of holiness in life, two ways of encountering the divine. There is an occasionally encountered special natural holiness with such profound power found in the miracles of pregnancy, birth, recovery from illness, etc. We more profoundly encounter God in the intense life experiences of birth and death, sickness and health. We can and should also, though, so choose a more regularly encountered special holiness with our connection with Torah, with our praying to God, with our doing mitzvot, etc. The special life and death holiness is chosen by God for us. The more regular Torah holiness is chosen by us for God. Someone recovering from illness should feel God's holiness so strongly. A woman having just given birth should feel God's holiness so strongly. Those having such recent contact with God's such holiness are to fully feel the power of that holiness and not seek the more regular holiness, which we are to choose to seek when not having had such profoundly powerful, special, holy encounters with life. After experiencing such profoundly powerful encounters, though, we can and should purify ourselves before reconnecting with the more regular. Whatever we touch when so affected is also thus so affected. Tumah could even afflict the Torah itself. We are thus to be quite careful with how we handle or do not handle the Torah. We are thus not to make it impure as such by touching the parchment with our bare hands. We carry it with a mantle covering, protecting it. And we read with a yod to point along our reading. Beyond the holy conditions of impurity, this week's reading explains the more unholy condition of impurity as well. Tumah requires us to refrain temporarily from approaching God's sanctuary. Tza'arat, though, requires us to actually isolate from human contact. Tumah is a profoundly powerful, holy impurity, a special life and death holiness. Tza'arat is a potentially contagious impurity that needs to be cured. Metzora means leper, but not in such modern terms. It is similar linguistically to motzi shem ra, one who gossips. Like leprosy, gossip is highly contagious and can spread and spread. The laws of leprosy and gossip in the Torah come after the dietary laws, as we are to be just as careful with what comes out of our mouths as we are to be careful with what goes into our mouths. Both the leper and the gossiper must separate from the community and go heal so as not to spread such illness within the community. The inflicted should recognize the need to go away from others to heal, and the community should offer prayer and such support. It is the responsibility of the inflicted to warn others for them not to come near. Those who are healthy are to continue on well with life and need not separate from others. But those inflicted are the ones who are to have such responsibility and must so separate. Those inflicted are badad yeshev, to dwell apart. After the required time, before being again in the company of others, v'rachatz et bisaro b'mayim v'taher. He shall bathe his body in water, then he shall be pure. After all, we can see further back in Bereshit, the world was created of water. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al panei hamayim. The Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. Such profoundly powerful experiences, such extreme experiences of life and death, in a way, have us be reborn, to be recreated. Even the leper can be reborn and become a new person. This reading communicates to us the importance of purity, how impurity can be contagious. Much detail is given about rituals of and for purification, how the inflicted need to be repurified before coming again in contact with others and causing them to possibly contract such affliction. What we do, or what we do not do, can affect others. We need to think about the ramifications on others of what we do or do not do. We thus need to take the time to put forth the effort for purification, not just for our own sake, but for the sake of others with whom we might come into contact. We are not to let our own impurities threaten the purities of others or of the sanctuary or otherwise that which is holy. We are not to be batamam et mishkani, defiling God's tabernacle. This not only refers literally to the actual physical tabernacle we have built for connecting with God, but this also figuratively refers to the tabernacles with which we have been blessed, in which to live, our bodies. To quote my young friend Hero, my body is my temple. Hero is a teen who is so conscious to treasure the gift of the vessel in which he is blessed to live, as pure and holy as it was given to him by God. And these readings are so here to remind us to be more rightly responsible for what goes into our bodies and what goes out of our bodies. That which we may experience of life and death have profound power. But we do have important choices that we should more responsibly make. And we should recognize the special life and death holiness that is chosen by God for us, and the more regular Torah holiness that is to be chosen by us for God. I will leave you with that to ponder as I wish you Shabbat Shalom.